The curse continues. The whispering streets. Night fell wrong over Shreveport. The streetlights buzzed with a faint gold tint instead of white, and every window seemed to watch. Reggie walked alone through the warehouse district, hood up, feeling the hum under his skin. The city's noise, sirens, radios, barking dogs, faded in and out like a signal dying. Somewhere in the distance, something whispered his name. He tried to convince himself it was stress, that the fire in the bayou had ended everything. But now he heard things in every quiet place, coins rolling on tile, chains dragging across wet pavement, faint laughter behind the wind. He stopped at a puddle near the curb. The water shimmered gold. For a heartbeat, his reflection wasn't his own. It smiled. "You wear me well," a voice murmured from the reflection. "The debt sleeps inside you, Reggie." He stumbled back, heart pounding. The puddle went still again. The voice in his head didn't. "Find the market, feed it, or it feeds on you." When he blinked, the world twitched, streets bending, lights stretching. For an instant, Shreveport looked like two cities layered over each other, the normal one and the other, the market below, bleeding upward through cracks in the air. Then it snapped back. Reggie ran. The echo of gold. He hid in an old apartment on Texas Street. The walls were thin, the wallpaper peeling, but the rent was low and the neighbors minded their business. Every night at 3:03, the static came again. Radios turned on by themselves. Coins appeared in places he hadn't left them, kitchen counter, inside shoes, even under his pillow. He started tapping, his eyes open, afraid to sleep. That's when Michael came back. Not bright and solid like before, but faint, like smoke shaped into a man. "You're changing," the spirit said. "He's pulling through you." Reggie's voice cracked, "Then help me stop it." Michael looked down at his hands, transparent and trembling. "I can only guide, the rest is yours." He handed Reggie something, a rosary blackened by soot. It was cold enough to burn. "When the market calls, this will point the way. Don't follow it unless you're ready to see." That night the rosary began to glow, one bead at a time. The new market. Following the glow led Reggie beneath the city again, through a storm drain that reeked of rust and rainwater, down to a place that shouldn't exist. The tunnels opened into a cavern lit by candles made of tallow that whispered as they burned. And there it was, the market reborn. Not the same stalls as before. These were modern now, folding tables, glowing screens, crates stacked with things that shouldn't be traded, locks of hair, photographs that moved, tiny glass bottles filled with size. The vendors had changed too. Ordinary people, their eyes faintly gold, their smiles too wide. "Business never sleeps," one said. "A favor for a favor, a promise for a dream." Reggie walked through the aisles, the rosary heavy in his hand. Each step made the whisper louder, Lorcan's voice curling around him like smoke. "You brought me back, lad. Every wish, every deal, they open doors." At the far end of the cavern, a chair waited. On it sat a mirror framed in black iron. Reggie's reflection stood up before he did, grinning with Lorcan's eyes. "Time to pay your share." The voice in the mirror. Reggie's reflection began to speak faster than he could think, words overlapping, ancient syllables that scraped the air raw. The cavern lights dimmed. Every person in the market froze, their faces turning toward him in perfect unison. "Bind me or become me," the reflection hissed. Reggie raised the rosary, its glow flared blue-white, cutting through the gold haze. The mirror cracked. Behind it, something moved, an outline too tall to be Lorcan, too thin to be human. Michael's voice shouted inside his head. "It's not just him anymore. He opened the gates. There are others." The mirror shattered completely. Reggie fell backward, glass slicing through his coat, the glow swallowing everything. Inheritance. He woke in daylight, sprawled in the street outside the jazz club where it had all begun. No mirror, no market, just the faint ring of church bells and the smell of rain. For a moment, he thought it was over. Then he felt the coin in his pocket, warm, pulsing like a heartbeat. He pulled it out. It bore a new engraving, his own face. From somewhere inside, Lorcan's voice whispered, not mocking now, but patient. You're the keeper now. Keep the market running, and maybe you'll live long enough to forget me. Reggie stared at the coin, and a slow dread filled his chest, because behind the whisper, another voice spoke, the same tone, the same echo, but it was his voice this time. A favor for a favor, it said. Let's make a deal. The sound of coins falling filled the air again, faint but steady. And the streets of Shreveport began to whisper. Coins in the rain. The city had changed. 2 weeks after the night of the mirror, Reggie noticed it first in the small things, people staring too long at reflections, whispers from radios even when unplugged, the smell of burnt copper after every rainfall. Shreveport was bleeding between worlds again. Reggie walked with his hood low, rain soaking through his jacket. Every time his foot hit the pavement, he heard it clink, 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 coins that weren't there, coins that sometimes were. At the corner of Texas and Spring, a woman sold flowers from a cart. Her eyes flickered gold for a second, then back to brown. She smiled, too wide, and held out a single lily. You dropped this, love, she said. When he reached for it, the petals bled red. He backed away. She laughed, a laugh that wasn't hers. The market misses you. Reggie turned and ran through the rain, but the sound followed, every raindrop hitting the pavement like falling coins. The calling. Michael appeared again that night, faint as candle smoke, standing by the boarded window. It's spreading, Michael said. The market's not underground anymore. Reggie sat on the edge of the bed, exhausted. How do I stop it? You don't, not yet. It's feeding on what's owed. People are making deals again, wishes, cures, revenge. They don't even realize who they're dealing with. Reggie's fists clenched. Then I'll make them realize. Michael shook his head slowly. You're tied to it now. Break too many deals and it'll take you instead. You need to balance the debt, not destroy it. The lights flickered. The reflection in the window smirked at them both. He's right, you know, Lorcan's voice purred. Balance the books, little keeper. The market loves its order. Reggie grabbed the rosary. It burned his palm. But this time, he didn't let go. The broken deals. He started hunting. Every night. Reggie tracked whispers, rumors of miracles and curses, strange fortunes, impossible trades. A man who suddenly won the lottery and lost his shadow. A preacher who healed the sick but bled gold dust. A teenage girl who wished for her dead brother back and got him. Each deal led to another. Each miracle had a price. He found the preacher first, trembling behind the pulpit, veins glowing like molten wire. He promised me power, the preacher gasped, said I'd save souls. Reggie pressed his hand to the man's forehead. The rosary burned between them, blue fire cutting through gold. You were tricked, Reggie whispered, but I can end it. The preacher screamed as his shadow peeled off the wall and dissolved. When it was done, the man fell silent, alive, but hollow-eyed. Michael appeared beside him. You saved him. Reggie shook his head. No, I just moved the debt. The market expands. By autumn, the market was everywhere. It wasn't underground anymore. It was in pawnshops, bars, street corners, even on phones, people selling their luck, trading memories for love, fame for years off their lives. Reggie couldn't stop it all. Every time he closed one deal, 3 more appeared. Lorcan whispered in his ear constantly now, half taunting, half teaching. You see it now, don't you? The world's been trading favors since the dawn of time. The market's just the mirror. Reggie slammed his fists against the wall. Then I'll shatter the damn mirror. Ah, Lorcan chuckled, and what will you see when it's gone? The lights dimmed. Reggie looked at his reflection, his own eyes glowing faintly gold. The burned crossroads. It ended, or maybe began again, at the old crossroads outside town, where the soil was still black from the fire years ago. Reggie stood in the center, coins scattered around his boots. The rosary glowed, the beads pulsing with a heartbeat not his own. Michael stood beside him, fadding more each second. "You can end this, Reggie. One last trade, your soul for the market's silence." Reggie shook his head. "No, that's what Lorcan wants." "Then what?" Reggie looked up at the storm gathering overhead. "I'm not trading my soul, I'm taking it back." He raised the rosary high. The ground split open, golden light pouring upward, the market screaming through the cracks. Faces, bargains, ghosts of greed and regret clawing at the air. Reggie shouted through it all. "The debt's paid, no more deals." The light swallowed him whole. When it cleared, the crossroads were silent. No gold, no whispers. Just Reggie standing alone, eyes no longer glowing. But in his hand, a single coin, half melted, warm as blood. The market sleeps. Weeks passed, the whispers stopped, people forgot their deals, the city felt almost normal again. Reggie walked through downtown one night, breathing in the clean air, thinking it might finally be over. Then he heard a sound, faint, echoing through a nearby alley. Clink, clink. A child's voice whispered from the dark. "Mister, wanna make a deal?" Reggie turned slowly, the rosary pulsed once in his pocket. He didn't answer, he just stepped forward into the dark. The screen fades to black. The market below never dies, it just changes hands. Ashes and echoes. The storm never left Shreveport, it just hung there, a slow grey pulse over the skyline. Reggie could feel it every time he breathed, a kind of pressure behind the ribs, like the air itself remembered what had happened at the crossroads. He walked alone now. Michael hadn't appeared for weeks, and silence was the only companion that followed him from street to street. The people of the city didn't notice the quiet hum anymore, but Reggie did. The market was asleep, not dead. Sometimes late at night, he'd catch it in reflections, a faint flicker of golden dust around a stranger's eyes, a whisper through the static of an old TV. Small things, harmless things, at least that's what he told himself. Then one night, he found the book again. It wasn't supposed to exist anymore, he'd watched it burn. But there it was, sitting on the hood of his car outside the gas station, pages dry despite the rain, the leather cover cracked, the sigil faintly pulsing underneath. Inside, a single new line had appeared in blood-red ink. "To end the market, the keeper must pay its price." Reggie closed the book. Lightning tore across the sky. The ghost of Michael. The next night, the power went out across half the city. Reggie lit a candle, and for the first time in months, the temperature dropped so low he could see his breath. Then came the voice. "You shouldn't have kept it, Reg." He turned, and there, standing in the flickering glow, was Michael. Not whole, not broken, just different. The edges of his body shimmered, his face half in shadow. "I didn't," Reggie said quietly. "It found me." Michael looked at the book. "It always does. That's how it survives. It needs a keeper, someone to carry the weight when the last one breaks." Reggie frowned. "Then who was before me?" Michael smiled sadly. "You're looking at him." The candle's flame stretched higher. Shadows twisted. For a moment, Michael's eyes flashed gold, not in malice, but in sorrow. "I made the same mistake you did," he said. "Thought I could fix the curse. Thought I could outsmart him." Reggie's voice was low. "Lorcan." Michael nodded. "He's not gone, Reggie. He's part of the market now. Every deal, every whisper, it's him. You can't kill what's already traded its soul." The price revealed. Over the following days, Shreveport grew strange again. People disappeared. Streetlights blinked out for entire blocks. Cell service went dead after midnight. And in the city's forgotten corners, whispers of the gold-eyed man started to spread. Reggie knew it was Lorcan's doing, but this time it wasn't about deals. It was recruitment. The market was building itself a new body, piece by piece. He needed to end it before it took root again. Michael appeared one last time at the old house, the same one where it all began. "There's one way," Michael said, "but you won't like it." Reggie's hand tightened around the rosary. "Tell me." "You have to bind it to yourself. The market can't be destroyed, but it can be contained. You take it, you hold it, you keep it asleep, but you'll never walk free again." Reggie's voice trembled. "You want me to become it?" "No," Michael said softly. "I want you to make sure no one else ever does." The final bargain. He stood again at the crossroads. The air shimmered with gold mist, the soil cracked and bleeding light. The book lay open on the ground, pages fluttering like wings. Lorcan's voice echoed all around, smooth and mocking. "You're here again, boy, always trying to end the story. But you were part of it the moment you said yes." Reggie lifted the rosary. "I'm not saying yes, I'm taking it back." The wind screamed. Coins rose from the dirt, swirling like a storm of fireflies. "Then pay the price." Reggie stepped forward. "Fine." He slammed the rosary onto the book. Light exploded outward, a roar that cracked the sky. Michael's spirit screamed his name, then vanished into the blaze. The gold storm swallowed everything. When it cleared, only silence remained. The book was gone, the road was unmarked. And in the center of the crossroads stood Reggie, eyes glowing faint gold, but calm. He looked down at his hands. The skin shimmered with faint symbols, the same ones from the book. The market wasn't gone. It was him now. Redemption and the price. Years passed. Reggie lived quietly, moving from place to place. The city healed, the deals stopped, people forgot. But at night, when the wind howled through empty streets, he could hear it, faint, pleading voices in the dark. People still wishing, people still desperate. And sometimes he'd answer. Not for gold, not for power, but to save them from making the same mistake he did. He became a guardian of balance, the silent keeper of the market below. And in the spaces between worlds, Lorcan watched, bound, waiting, smiling. Because all debts come due. Even mercy. The whisper returns. A thunderstorm rolled over Shreveport again. A young woman hurried through the rain, clutching her coat. She spotted something glinting in the gutter, a single gold coin, half melted, warm to the touch. She picked it up, turning it over. There was a faint whisper behind her, barely audible. "Careful what you wish for." She looked around, no one there. The coin pulsed softly in her palm. Somewhere deep beneath the city, a faint sound echoed, a market bell tolling once. The market below was awake again. Book VI, The Keeper's Shadow. An urban, gothic, supernatural thriller. The whisper beneath the floodlights. The rain never stopped in Shreveport anymore. It came down in slow, constant sheets, washing the city in a dim amber glow beneath the streetlights. The gutters were slick, with runoff, old posters peeling from brick walls, the air thick with the smell of rust and river water. Tessa Wynne walked home beneath her umbrella, avoiding puddles that seemed deeper than they should be. She worked late at the hospital, night shifts mostly, the quiet hours between midnight and dawn when the city's heart barely beat. That's when she started to hear it. A sound beneath the rain. Not quite a voice, more like a whisper breathing with her, matching every step she took. Sometimes it said nothing at all. Other times, it murmured words she couldn't make out, syllables that seemed to move the air itself. Tonight, though, the whisper was clearer. "You've been chosen, child." Tessa froze under the streetlight, her reflection wavering in the flooded street. The air around her pulsed, the light flickered, and then the whisper was gone. She hurried home, breath shaking. When she opened her apartment door, there was a book waiting on the kitchen table. Old leather, soaked from the rain, but her door had been locked. A single note was tucked inside. To the new keeper, beware what you silence. And in the far corner of the room, where the shadows met, something laughed softly. The house on Travis Street. Tessa didn't sleep that night. She left the book untouched, but by morning she could feel it pulsing faintly in the apartment, like a heartbeat under the floorboards. By the second night, her lights began to flicker. The whisper came back. It said names. None she knew. On the third night, she drove across town to the only person who might understand the impossible. Reggie Cole's name had become legend since his disappearance. Some said he'd gone mad chasing shadows. Others said he was still out there, hunting the market below. The house on Travis Street had belonged to him. Abandoned now, boarded up, but Tessa felt drawn to it. Inside, the air smelled like dust and wet ash. Symbols were carved into the floor, the same ones faintly etched into the book's first page. A mirror stood in the corner, cracked down the middle. And when she looked into it, she didn't see her reflection. She saw him, a man with tired eyes and faint golden marks on his skin. "You shouldn't have taken it," he said quietly. "Who are you?" "The last keeper." The Shadow Market. Over the weeks that followed, Tessa learned that Shreveport had a hidden pulse, a rhythm that ran beneath its streets, in the whispers between prayers, in the hush before thunder. She saw it in people's eyes, waitresses who looked too young to have the memories they carried, preachers who smiled with guilt behind their sermons, gamblers who never lost and never seemed to age. All of them owed something. All of them whispered to something unseen. Reggie's ghost guided her from reflection to reflection, never stepping fully into her world. "You can't destroy it," he told her, "but you can bury it deeper, keep it asleep. And if I do, then it wakes, and Shreveport won't survive another cycle." The market wasn't just a place anymore, it had become a dream. People traded their pain for comfort, their conscience for peace. The deals weren't written, they were believed. And belief was the market's new gold. The keeper's descent. Tessa started to see what Reggie had meant. The market wasn't built from coins and contracts. It was a hunger, a pattern, an echo that fed on the small bargains people made with themselves every day. She felt it in her veins now, every prayer whispered in fear, every wish uttered in desperation. The book on her table began to change, pages turning on their own, names appearing in ink that smelled faintly of iron and smoke. Each name was followed by a symbol. Each symbol glowed faintly when she spoke it aloud. She stopped sleeping altogether. The city seemed to tilt under her feet, bending around her presence. Neon lights dimmed as she passed, car alarms stuttered to life, dogs refused to bark. Reggie's voice came one last time, distant, fadding. "Don't let it use you, Tessa." "I'm not like you," she whispered. "That's what I said too." The return of the market. It began on a Friday. The river rose higher than it had in decades, swallowing the lower streets. Stores shut down, the air smelled metallic. At the center of town, a light flickered through the rain, a market stall glowing gold, impossible to ignore. People gathered. One by one, they stepped closer, drawn by whispers only they could hear. Tessa ran toward it, book in hand, symbols burning through her palm. She saw faces she recognized, her patients, her neighbors, strangers she'd passed on the street, all of them reaching out to trade, to wish. The market had awakened through their faith. And standing at its heart, smiling through the storm, was a man in a torn green coat, his eyes like molten metal. "It's been a long time, Keeper." "Lorcan." Tessa lifted the book, pages fluttering. "It ends with me." He smiled wider. "No, child, it begins with you." The storm roared, light swallowed the square, and the market below breathed again. The Mirror City. Shreveport never looked the same afterward. The rain stopped, but the air shimmered faintly at night. Reflections stayed a beat too long. Some said the new keeper walked among them, quiet and unseen. Others said she'd vanished entirely, taken below, to keep the market in balance. But in the cracks of the old streets, sometimes, when the wind passed just right, a whisper could be heard. All debts paid for now. And somewhere beneath the city, a single gold coin rolled into the dark, waiting. The keeper's war. The echo and the cross. Months passed after the flood. Shreveport wore its calm like a bandage, thin, trembling, temporary. Tessa walked the riverfront each night, watching the reflections twist across the dark water. Every now and then, she saw another city below the surface, golden lights flickering upside down, too perfect to be real. The church bells no longer rang at the right hours. Sometimes they tolled at dawn, sometimes at 3 a.m., the hour of debts. That's when the letters began arriving. Each envelope sealed with wax, the imprint a coin inside a cross. We know what you carry. We can help you end it. They came from a group calling itself the Order of Saint Eligius, priests, historians, and exorcists who claimed the market had appeared across centuries. Every time someone tried to destroy it, the keeper fell and the market returned stronger. Tessa burned the first few letters. But fire didn't stop the words. The Order. She finally met them in the basement of a ruined cathedral near Line Avenue. The air smelled of incense and mildew, candles burned low, wax pooling like amber. At the table sat 3 people. Father Jerome, pale and tired. Dr. Cade, a historian whose hands shook. And Mara Dell, a blind woman who seemed to see everything anyway. You don't control it, Mara said softly. You balance it, but even balance tips with time. Tessa nodded. Then you already know it's stirring again. Father Jerome opened an old journal. Because someone's feeding it, there are new deals, not yours, someone else. He slid the journal across. Inside were clippings, deaths, disappearances, all marked with the faint symbol of the market. A splinter sect, Dr. Cade whispered. They call themselves the Gilded Hand. They believe Lorcan was a prophet. Tessa felt the air chill. The market was no longer hiding, it was recruiting. The Gilded Hand. At first they seemed like a rumor, street preachers, small-time mystics promising luck in exchange for gifts. But soon they were everywhere, painted symbols on alley walls, flyers slipped under doors, podcasts whispering of the second prosperity. When Tessa tracked them to a warehouse by the docks, she saw candles in a perfect circle and dozens of people kneeling inside, humming one low note together. The floor glowed, faintly gold. At the center stood a woman in a crimson coat, her voice steady. The keeper is weak, the market must rise. Tessa stepped from the shadows, and if it does, it'll devour you first. The woman turned, smiling, then we'll be immortal. For a heartbeat, every candle flared blue, then died at once. The war begins. After that night, the city split in 2. Some whispered prayers to the market. Others prayed against it. Miracles returned, gamblers who couldn't lose, lovers reunited after death, rain falling only on chosen houses. But each miracle carried a shadow, someone else vanished, or woke without a memory of their own name. Father Jerome called it the balance unraveling. Tessa felt it too. Each time she used the book to silence a deal, another opened elsewhere. She began marking the city on a map, tiny gold pins where the market bled through. By autumn, the whole board glowed. One night, Reggie's reflection appeared again in the window. It's too big now, Tess. You can't hold it alone. Then help me. I can't. I'm part of the ledger. The glass cracked between them. Ash and gold. The final confrontation came beneath the cathedral, the same one where she'd first met the Order. The Gilded Hand had taken it over, turning the altar into a circle of gold and glass. Tessa stood at its edge, the book trembling in her grip. Across from her, the woman in crimson smiled as golden light rose around her like wings. "You can't destroy faith," the woman said. "No," Tessa answered, "but I can make it honest." She opened the book. Pages flew like birds, scattering light. The cathedral filled with wind, and the sound of 1,000 whispered deals unraveling. When the dust settled, the gold was gone. The woman in crimson knelt, her eyes clear again. Outside, dawn broke over Shreveport for the first time in months. The quiet city. Weeks later, the order disbanded. The market's symbols faded from walls. But Tessa knew better than to believe it was over. She still heard faint humming in the river at night, saw coins embedded in the concrete like fossils. Sometimes, in mirrors, Reggie watched from the other side, silent, half-smiling. "You kept the balance," he'd whisper. "For now," she'd reply. The camera of the mind pulls back over the city, wet roofs, broken crosses, soft morning light. Beneath it all, the market sleeps. And somewhere deep under the river, a single page of the book turns itself, waiting for the next name to be written. The river sleeps no more. The Red River never really slept. It murmured, gurgled, whispered beneath its silted banks, like something breathing through waterlogged teeth. Shreveport rose around it, rebuilding again and again, pretending not to notice how the river sometimes ran darker than rain. But tonight, the city was too still. Streetlights flickered out one by one down Texas Avenue, and in the faint reflection of a cracked storefront window, gold rippled beneath the surface. Something ancient stirred. The market below was waking. Tessa's ghosts. Tessa sat alone in her shotgun apartment above an abandoned hair salon. The only light came from candles and a TV showing static. The Book of Balance lay open before her, its pages faintly pulsing like veins. Every night she tried to rest, but she could feel Reggie in the walls. His voice came through the air vent, soft, like a dream she couldn't forget. "You're running out of time, Tess. The market don't stay dead, not here." She took a shaky breath. The air felt heavier lately, like breathing through water. There were whispers of new deals being struck through smartphones, whispers on encrypted apps, the market moving digital, spreading through signal instead of shadow. "You can't digitize sin," she muttered. But she wasn't sure anymore. The resurrection algorithm. Dr. Cade called at dawn. He'd found something on the dark web, forums where people offered soul swaps and luck infusions. The prices were always the same, one favor owed later. "It's code now," Cade said. "The market's learned to write itself." He turned his laptop toward her. On the screen, a glowing symbol forming out of pixels, the same coin in a cross that had haunted her letters. And under it, a line of text. "The keeper shall fall, the ledger will balance itself." Tessa slammed the lid shut. The market didn't need prayers anymore, it had Wi-Fi. The return of the leprechaun. Night fell like a bruise. Thunder rolled across the city, and something ancient crawled up from beneath the storm drains. Lorcan, the leprechaun of the market, walked again. But this time, he wasn't wearing his usual mocking smile. His eyes burned gold, hollow and endless. "You broke my chain, girl," he hissed, voice like coins tumbling. "Now the debt is loose." "You were using us all," she said. "And now you'll watch what happens when no one pays the price." The ground split beneath her feet. Shadows poured out, faces screaming silently as they swirled around Lorcan. Reggie's spirit appeared beside her, faint and flickering. "We end him here," he said. Tessa nodded. "Then let's end it right." The Keeper's War. Downtown Shreveport burned with cold fire, blue flame licking through stormwater drains and neon signs flickering with symbols. The order of Saint Eligius regrouped in the ruins of the cathedral. Father Jerome raised his cross. It glowed dull silver. He's rewriting the city's foundation, Jerome gasped. He's turning every transaction, every dollar, into a contract. Tessa opened the book. Its pages were now half digital, glowing with script instead of ink. Then I'll write one last deal, she said. Reggie touched her shoulder. Be careful what you offer. She whispered to the book. One final bargain, my soul for the market's silence. The book shuddered. Lorcan appeared at the altar, smiling now, wide and cracked. A noble trade, but you'll make a terrible merchant. Maybe, she said, but I'll make a better ghost. She drove the book into the floor. Light exploded. The blood and the binding. Everything went quiet. The cathedral's stained glass melted like wax. Lorcan screamed, gold dripping from his eyes as the city trembled. The market howled, voices from centuries echoing in one final scream. Coins burst from the walls like shrapnel, spinning Medea before turning to ash. When the light faded, Lorcan was gone. Only the smell of iron and rain remained. Tessa lay on the ground, blood trickling from her nose, eyes glowing faint gold. Reggie knelt beside her. You did it, it's done. She smiled weakly. Not done, contained, I'm the market now. Her veins shimmered faintly gold. The book was gone, absorbed into her. Reggie reached for her hand, but his own began to fade. You'll be okay. No, she whispered, but they will. He smiled one last time before dissolving into light. The market sleeps. Weeks later, Shreveport was quiet again. No more gold symbols, no whispers, no luck deals. But in the reflection of the Red River at night, a faint glow still pulsed, heartbeats slow, like the city itself breathing. Tessa walked along the bank, hair whipping in the wind, her eyes still faintly gold. A man passing by dropped a coin into the river. It didn't splash, it sank without sound. Tessa smiled softly. You'll get your wish, she whispered. But you'll pay for it in dreams. She turned away, the reflection of the city rippling behind her, gold and shadow intertwined. The market below had found its keeper. And this time, it wore a human face. In the end, every deal comes due, every favor finds its weight. And in a city built on bargains, even salvation costs something. Rain falls. Somewhere beneath the surface, coins whisper once more.